now there's nothing to talk about.
Yeah, we already touched on everything. It's time to go.
Can't talk about real stuff now. Now we got to talk about professional stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. It's Friday. Usually we talk about booze at this time. So close to being 5 o'clock, right?
Yeah, I've got, there's a local bar here in town that's hosting a whiskey and cigar event, and I'll be helping host the cigar portion of the event, but they could have had me on either one of them. Could have handled either.
And partake in both, right?
Right. Well, when in Rome.
Yeah, exactly.
Along the lines of good customer service, I got a haircut scheduled today at 4, and I'm part of this like club thing. But you go in and you get certain services done, and you get one drink with your membership, and they've got a pretty good bourbon selection, and they make some mixed drinks too. So customer service not totally dead.
While you're getting your haircut?
Yeah. Yep.
Huh.
Yeah, it's a national chain. I'm sure your experience probably varies depending on which one you're at, but the ones here in Columbus do pretty good.
Interesting. Well, I was going to say, it does seem like the services where you're interacting with another human directly, like a haircut, those have been unaffected by the drop in customer service. At least in my experience.
Yeah,
they're still doing.
They have struggled with some employee stability over the past couple months, but for the most part, they do really good.
I think that's what we're all struggling with right now. The employee side.
I can say that's absolutely a factor, and from what I've experienced on the consumer side.
Well, and two, guys got used to making big money during COVID. There's guys that don't realize that that's not the norm, and so now they're seeing that shrink a little bit, and they don't, Now it's less so for a store like ours because we're not commission based, but still the volume aspect of it can affect it for them.
There was a good car dealership guy podcast. I don't know if we mentioned other podcasts on here, but just a couple episodes ago that he had a guy on that was talking exactly about dealership pay plans. This exact conversation. It was pretty interesting.
30 seconds, guys. All right.
Good day.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack on that one, John. But I think we should hit on all this stuff because I think it, we get into this a little bit. The customer experience side is really what matters at the end of the day when it comes to digital retailing. So, and maybe you can do a TLDR here. Too long didn't read, or a TLDW in our case. There you go. If the customer service is screwed because digital retailing isn't being used right at your store, that's why it's not working. Heyday's over. All right.
Yeah, that's the thing. We've got to figure out how to incorporate that the concierge aspect to the digital retailing. That's the missing piece to me.
Well, Bill, why don't you take a moment and let the world know who you are?
Yeah, Bill Vaughn. I'm the general sales manager at Kirksville Motor Company. I've been here about 8 years now. I started out as the single internet lead guy at the store. I just pull the internet leads and pass it on to somebody else, to another salesperson. And here I am 8 years later. I'm GSM talking to you guys.
And
That's
how
great.
long ago did you discover Dealer Refresh?
Pretty early on into my career here, I've been in sales for a while, but hadn't sold cars before, and I'm always a believer in training and finding resources that help. And the Dealer Refresh was one of the first that I found, especially whenever I started getting into the marketing aspect, whenever I started taking over some of those responsibilities and had no clue, no clue. That's how I found you guys. Now I have a clue.
I would say you got more than that.
Well, look up.
John, and we met while you worked at a marketing company. Actually,
We
I
did.
you met Jeff too. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bill, you signed up in the forums in December of 2018.
18 sounds about right. That's probably about exactly right.
Yep. Sorry.
Dude, I was trying to set Singo up. Who is the Jon Singo here?
Yeah, so long time listener, first time caller, but I'd probably be what you considered a industry lifer. Growing up in the Motor City, always kind of had a passion for cars. Didn't really know where my career was going, but I've been in this industry in one facet or another for about 20 years now. Started out going to college. Thought I wanted to learn how to wrench, and I did that for a little bit while I was in college and learned real quick that wasn't what I wanted to do. So I ended up actually doing internet sales in 2004, before it was cool. Believe it or not, I was even delivering cars in 2004, just like, unheard of, because that's something that most people just consider doing, through COVID. So I kind of worked my way through that, been through service departments, service writing, shop foreman, various places. COVID, things took a turn, ended up at CarMax after that. Got a lot of great training there, worked my way up through CarMax into purchasing. And yeah, ended up on the vendor side. That's how I met a couple people on this call today. And then now I'm a platform buyer at a dealer group here in Columbus, Ohio.
Very nice.
Yep. Yeah, so a lot of history with the four of us, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yep. Most of it through typing on the forum, but yeah.
Well, and Frickin' Tech helps us at the dealership here a lot too, so that got us deeper.
Oh man, Bill, you're earning your $100 plug later here.
Got it.
All right. Well, guys, digital retailing, as we've seen it, has come in a lot of different flavors over its evolution. And I figured probably the best way to start this whole show off about digital retailing was to define it. Because if you ask anyone in the car business, what is digital retailing, I think everyone's going to have a different answer. And it also has a different answer from your perspective as to how you're going to deal with it. So let's start with what the consumer thinks digital retailing is. Guys got any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think I don't know that the average consumer that hops on a website and starts a digital retailing tool fully understands that they could literally end up buying the car. I don't think when they go in, I don't think that's what they think's happening, and anybody that's handled internet leads for a while knows that customers often end up in a place they had no idea how they got there. And I think sometimes digital retailing's that way,
So my wife works heavily with the UX and in CX, and I think if I asked her, being not a car person, her experience looking for a car maybe like a decade ago was, I went on Honda's website and I optioned this car and built this car the way I wanted, but I couldn't click buy. And that's what I think a lot of people would consider digital retailing, like buying anything else. I know what I want, and I want to be able to buy it easily.
Yeah.
So what would you consider it like? So yeah, Bill, there's definitely that entry where it's like, I'm just going to get payments on this car. The call to action is really non-committal. But then at the same time, there's a promise. That's how I always thought of it. is the dealer's promise to the customer that what you see on our website is going to translate to what you get when you come in the store. So
We should.
Yeah. And that's the thing is there's always that argument of should it say buy now or should it say some innocuous softer thing to kind of get the ball rolling. You know, there's that argument too. And I think from the dealer side, you know, if you go to buy a Tesla, you know what's going to happen. You know, you know you're buying the car online. With on the dealer side, not so much. So if it doesn't just say buy now, you don't know exactly what you're doing. If it says start your purchase, that doesn't necessarily tell the customer that they're going to finish the purchase. They just think they're starting it. And what we all know is for the most part, when dealing with a dealer, the customer still wants to do some of the process online, but maybe not all of it, right? Which, you know, again, plugging Frickin' Tech here a little bit, we've tried a couple of different digital retail tools and failed miserably. The only people that really got to the buy it now part were the people who couldn't buy it now. And yeah, what we really
with all the add-ons too, I bet.
Yeah, right.
That's so true.
When we used the payment tool, there was no buy it now. It was just they had control over what they were going to do at the end of that, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of consumers too are so kind of snake bitten dealing with automotive purchases throughout the years that they're just accustomed to being thrown curveballs. So even if it did say buy it now, I don't know how many people would think it's legitimate to take advantage of it unless it's a known entity like a Carvana where that's just what they do.
Yeah.
So it could be a component of it as well.
So to Bill's point, should it be get me done now?
Yeah, then populates 3 cars we might actually be able to get you done on. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you signing up on 3? We'll get one of them home, right?
But I think what's so true there is the aspect of there's a trust factor involved, right? If they don't, the customer, you know, even through all the education and resources you can find online, you know, I was having a conversation with a friend that was talking about buying a car, and I was trying to walk her through all the different parts of it. And by the time I got done, I was confused, you know, about what numbers are how they were going to hit you here, how they're going to hit you, how they were going to approach everything. There's just so many different ways to look at it. And so I don't know that the average customer feels confident that by the end of the process, they're going to have it right, that those numbers are going to be the right numbers, right? I think that's a big part of it as well.
Well, let's shift over here. What do you think the vendor's definition of digital retailing is?
Whatever they'll buy. Whatever the dealer
exactly,
will buy.
yeah. A product I can sell. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or get approval through an OEM so they can be forced to buy it.
All right.
Right.
Well, what do you think the OEM's definition is?
I mean,
I genuinely think the OEM, and I could be maybe naive here, maybe with the best intentions are trying to increase the customer experience. It is in their best interest to do so. But I also don't think that they're maybe as wise to how the tools get, treated on both ends of the spectrum. So while they might have good intentions, it obviously doesn't always end up that way.
Well,
yeah, it's completely logical. It's completely logical. It makes sense that this would be the best way to buy a car. That's not the world we live in.
And yet they're not willing to go direct to consumer, proving that, they still need the middleman.
And they know that. They know they still need the consumer. That's why they're not willing to go direct to consumer. They know they do because of all these different variables, right? Tesla can get away with it because there aren't all these different variables that they have to work through, right? Like, I don't know if any of you have been on the Tesla website recently. I went through, what it would be like to buy a car on the Tesla website. There's not 17 different trims. It's like, you want this car? You want this interior? You want this exterior? What battery charger do you want? Buy. Right?
I
Whereas
will, I
I
will,
looked
oh, go ahead, sorry.
at, go,
It's despite their deceptive practices, though, on payments, which I find hilarious. They offer a great end-to-end experience purchasing, but when you start looking at their payments, it's initially very deceptive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's part of the issue as well. It's not just the product's complexity that drives the confusion of buying a car, but it's also the paperwork, the lender, the insurance. All of these other parties that are involved in this purchase have their own way of doing things. And then you've got the agenda of the dealer.
right.
So is this dealer, and I say dealer is in the dealer principal, are we on a volume train right now, or are we on a profit train right now? What's my pay plan? Am I used to getting $8,000 per car, and now I'm looking at $700 per car, and I'm not happy anymore? It's a lot of issues going on there for sure.
Yeah, and again, from the dealer side, from the perspective of what's their intention, right? Like, if you ever use a chat tool on a dealership's website, I find my best ideas by stealing them from other dealers. But, so I'll go to different dealer sites and play with their tools. And I went to a dealer site recently, and I was asking if the price that was on the website is the price that if I walked in and paid cash with no trade, is that what the price would be? And they refused to answer the question. They're deflecting to the dealership, right? Oh, we can't necessarily answer that. Contact the sales department. I said, can you just answer for that for me here? And they literally ended the chat. They said, contact the sales department, and ended my chat. Right?
Wow.
And so if that's the experience you get from the chat, and how can you have confidence that the numbers that the dealers show me there are right?
I like how the chat went with the strong close. That's good.
literally closed the chat. Like, yeah.
I just had a
Did you
similar
go?
experience buying a car myself, so it totally makes sense what you're saying.
All right. Well, let's take the last definition cycle here. What's the dealer's definition of digital retailing?
What?
Yeah. Again, like you said, that's different for every dealer, right? Like, there's the dealer that hopes that people are legitimately just going to buy cars online, but then there's also the dealer that just hopes they'll get a lead. If they get a lead, that's enough, right? For some dealers.
Yeah.
Super lead.
If I was to really, dive deep into a digital retail tool, I would want to know that everything was going to be right in the end, but I don't trust that my consumer is going to get that everything right in the end. And we have these on the back here as our Leonardisms that we have at the dealership, and one of them is why advertise to a customer if you're going to disappoint them whenever they show up, and that's whether it's on your showroom floor or on the internet, right? I don't want a tool that's going to disappoint them online. That's why we try to avoid even the chat tools being handled third party. We just rather handle the chat ourselves, because I think we have a less likelihood of disappointing the customer. Same thing why we're hesitant with AI. AI is going to disappoint a customer now and again. I'm not ready to do that.
Well, so Bill, would you call digital retailing a payment calculator on your website or a way to buy a car?
I just think it's whatever the guest wants it to be. You can have it be able to go all the way through, but don't force anything upon them. Again, we have tools on our website that are supposed to help the online guest. When we treat it like a lead generation tool, we get the exact opposite effect, right? When we treat it like a lead gen tool, I think we get less leads. I think when we treat our tools on our website like an informational gathering tool for the guest, I think it's a win-win. But when you're just looking at it, how do I get a lead as fast as possible? That's win-lose.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I also agree. If you look at it as lead gen, that's not where we're at. I don't know how long it's going to take for lead gen to die entirely, but I really hope we're headed there fast. The squeeze points and all that. It's gotten it's not the end all be all. There's a lot of sources, not all of them are great. Just the way I look at it is I know you can't always compare automotive to every other industry that's out there, consumerism, but at the end of the day, is there another product out there or service that you have to submit a lead to get information on something? And there just aren't a lot, if any. Automotive from that aspect is still one of the more gated, sections of, consumerism, considering that. So, but yeah, I think a lot of dealerships currently look at it as lead gen. And I think for it to be successful, you have to look at it as a process. It's part of the process. We've known for years now that your website and the internet's now your front door. And if you're not offering a good, frictionless, coin a phrase, experience, then people are going to bounce and go somewhere else. And that's just what it is. You don't even know how much traffic or customers you're losing because your website experience isn't good or doesn't offer X, Y, and Z. You don't even know. You know how many leads you're getting, but you don't know how many people are not coming back because you didn't offer them what they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's taking that further. Again, it goes back to the original point is between trim levels and packages and options and features and that mess. It can't be frictionless if there's so many choices, right? That's why Subway had the model of simplify it. It give you the select few choices. Chipotle took that further and even reduced the amount of choices you had beyond that. And look where they're at. Again, Tesla's the same way. The choices are much simpler. And so, again, going back to just looking at it from a purely helping a customer buy a car perspective, how many customers come in, think they know what they want? I want this car, and then you tell them it doesn't have this, or it does have this that they don't want. How are they supposed to know that online? How are they supposed to see that through on the digital retail from start to finish purchase? There's no one there to stop them and tell them, wait a minute, are you sure this is the trim that you want? These are the other trims that are available. Okay, and then they get through that funnel, and then here's all these different incentives you may or may not qualify for. And I'll take one from GM, which is first responder. What defines a first responder? Some people define that differently, right? So they think, I qualify for that incentive. I've just bought a car. Oh, wait, sorry, it's $500 different than that. It's going to be more.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think ultimately the big piece, here's the big difference between the buying online from Tesla and the dealership is the trade. The trade aspect. The Tesla takes that out of the equation. That's the number one pinch point for customers about making a decision to buy and move forward is what my trade's worth. Tesla doesn't have to deal with that.
I also think it's the number one tool that dealerships still feel as if they have leverage. So many things have changed, and dealerships, they don't have as many tricks or tools to get the customer to show up. And the trade is one of the last ones. So, I've always been, give the customer a price on the trade. You don't need to have it here at the dealership. But so many dealerships are like, no. I just overheard a conversation yesterday here at this dealership. Get them into the dealership. We need to put our eyes on the car in order to give them an accurate price on it. It's that one piece that dealerships can still hold on to entice the customer to come into the dealership. And we always know if you can get a customer to come into the dealership physically, your increases your chances of closing that customer, twofold.
But we
And I
also
would
have to
almost look
understand.
to it
Go ahead,
as the
Jim.
same as, obviously getting people in the dealership is your chances go up dramatically of closing the customer. But also the way I would look at it too is if I offer an amazingly engaging experience online, how can I quantify how many people are coming in because of that?
Yep. That's true.
Yeah, how many of them would have come anyways, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the trade side, the difficulty with the trade side, again, Jeff, I'm 100% with you. Like, I'll give a customer the sight unseen trade as soon as they want it. Like, there's the tools are good enough now that the trade should be relatively accurate. Again, there's
Mm-hmm.
no point in getting caught up. Sometimes dealers get caught up in a couple thousand here or there. We were just at a meeting with our dealer group, and they had all of us appraise a vehicle, and we were $7,000 difference from one guy appraising
Wow.
it to another guy. We were $7,000. Guys, experts do this every day. Do that exercise at your dealership. Have 5 guys look at a trade and see what number you come up with. I guarantee you won't come up with the same number. Give them Viato, give them VinQ, whatever you want. I guarantee they're still gonna come up with different numbers. And again, I want to give the customer a number that they can work with, not at the store, not trying to bring them into the store, but there's also that fear again. What we're always worried about is disappointing the customer. We get them here, and when we promise them a number, and we get them here, and it's not what we thought it was. I just this morning started last night a conversation with a customer online. He's got a 17 Silverado with 170,000 miles on it. Sends me pictures of it. I'm thinking, hey, 170,000 miles is a lot, but that's a clean truck. That truck it looked beautiful. Gets it here. It's got hail damage, paint's coming off of it. So that's what makes it so hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the customer doesn't want to hear any of that. Just give me a number. That should be the number.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
give them the number.
Yeah, the CarMaxes and the Carvanas of the world have done a good job of, they're going to give you an offer online and they're going to stick to it the majority of the time, unless that car comes in on fire. And, the way they look at it is they're going to take the good with the bad, and they're going to be right 75% of the time. 25% of the time they're going to miss, but 25% of those misses, half of those are going to be good misses and half are going to be probably bad misses, and it washes out. So I know a lot of dealers, like, to Jeff's point, want to hang on to that last piece of leverage, which is the trade. But at some point, at least for me, I want to buy every car I can. I don't care what it is. I want a straight volume play. I want to sell as many as I can. I want to buy as many as I can. And if I can't sell it, I'll wholesale it, and it'll work out in the end. It's going to. You got to look at it as a volume game, and you're going to appease more people by being able to do that online.
They do have the advantage of the
that.
volume, the size, though. They can offset their risk with more trades. Just like your big national banks can offer lower rates than your smaller banks because they can offset their risk. CarMax, Carvana, because of their size, they can offset some of that. If I miss one by $6-7 grand, it's going to be a minute before I offset that one with my smaller size.
Well,
their wholesale is very profitable too, so it's easy for them to hide a mistake a month because their wholesale does so well.
So
Great point.
One of the things that I think are an Achilles heel of a dealership is that we apply this 30-day window to everything. And if you were to look at your used car acquisition and your wholesale and even your digital retailing, not because you're trying to get a certain number of leads and conversion every month, but if you looked at it on an annualized basis, how drastically different would it change the decisions that you're making?
1,000%. Yeah. And even same thing, even with a new tool on the website, right? We live in that 30-day cycle. Well, customers they sometimes shop longer than that. We just started shipping nationwide recently, and at first we went through 2-3 weeks where nothing. We're actually sitting there thinking, man, we shipped more cars before we offered shipping. But slowly but surely, slowly but surely now, it's in the last 2 weeks, we've delivered 7, North Carolina, Arizona. Sometimes it takes a while for stuff to take, and you get a new tool on the website, like a digital retail tool. It doesn't take off right at the bat. Oh, it didn't work. Well, did you give it time? Did you give it resources? Did you give it the right training? I think there's that aspect that we struggle with as well.
For sure. So on the digital retailing side, every tool out there has a different user experience. There's some that integrate better into your website than others. Some that might have a better mobile application than others. And then there are others that are integrate with certain lenders, other than some that don't. And there's this wide range of what's available. But at the end of the day, what do you think is probably the most important thing that you would look for in one of these tools?
So for me, it's I think less about what is in the tool and how the process is implemented. There's a lot of tools that are similar enough. Some are gonna have benefits, and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, if my tool isn't translated directly to what's happening in the store, then it's not going to work. You're gonna off-put customers. You have customers that built a deal on your website using a tool, and they came in and it's off by however many a month or whatever. So if you didn't implement the process that you are giving the experience of your customer on the website in the store, then it's just doomed to fail. Doesn't matter how good the tool is.
Is that an accuracy thing? If you were to put it in some sort of bucket where the number they see online and the number they get in the store are the same thing, or is it setting up the experience? Where do you think that falls, John?
I think a lot of times the way I've seen it is there's maybe just a disconnect. I think a lot of dealers decided they needed, through COVID, actually needed some kind of digital retailing solution. So they got sold a product and, it was on the website and probably they didn't use it. And then now you've got a customer sitting in the store and you're like, well, let's sell them a car now. And maybe no one thought to ask if they were on the payment calculator on the website, assuming it didn't come in through a lead.
Right.
So now you have a situation where a customer was on the website and they had a $350 a month payment on a Versa. And now they're sitting in front of you and you're trying to sell it, $450 a month. The customer's sitting there like, well, I was on your website and it was this. And then now everyone's scrambling to try and figure out how you made it work and can they make it, or are they even going to sell it for that? And this just happened to be buying a car, I don't know, back in February at a local dealer. They had something posted online, payment calculator. I'm like, great, they got one in stock, let's do it. They wouldn't give me any confirmation until I went into the store, so I did. And there was a $5,000 addendum on top of it. And it was a unique car, rare. I knew it was going to be a struggle trying to find one. But I ended up having to drive 3 hours just to get what I was looking for, because they were the store that I ended up with had a digital retailing tool and they adhered to it and they agreed to it before I drove out there.
But again, I still think it goes back. How many dealers can honestly look in the mirror and say they do a great job of inspecting the results? How many dealers can really say that they know what happened? Like, for instance, I used that chat example, right? If that dealer found out what happened on that chat, you can't tell me he wouldn't blow the whole thing up. If he actually knew that happened, he would say, no way could we let that happen. But we don't do a great enough job of inspecting the results. To John's point, again, you have the customer that shows up that did a payment tool online. He comes in, there's a showroom visit started, and nobody knows that customer, there's a disconnect between who started that conversation online, who they're talking with now. Again, we've seen it before. The guy talks to a guy on the internet for 2 or 3 days on an internet lead. He shows up at the store and says, no, I've never talked to anybody before. And then how are those two going to connect? They're not going to connect very well, so you got to be able to figure out how you're going to fill that gap too. So
I think Bill touched on it earlier about imitating the people that are doing great. And I always, That's one of my favorite things, is just imitate greatness. You'll be successful. Someone's already figured it out. Let's do what they're doing. And you look at what CarMax has done with what their home delivery was, and they're pulling back on it. They realize people don't necessarily want or need to buy the car fully online and then delivered. Now, my guess is they probably didn't gain any market share by it because they already have so many stores across the country. But what has been very successful for them is they have offered essentially it's like a start your deal online, and then you go into the store and look at the car, and it's essentially like expedited paperwork, more or less. And that has been very successful for them. So the customer gets the opportunity to do the majority of the deal online, maybe having not seen the car yet, and then come in. It's more like an express lane, and that has really taken off for them.
Yeah, I think you could literally start an internet lead with, hey, just so you know, you can buy this car 100%. We'll do all the paperwork and everything and have it all done. You would convert a higher rate of leads. Just that most basic. You started the conversation that way. You don't even have to come to the store. I'll have all the paperwork ready. We'll bring it to you. Or when you get here, you're going to be here for 15 minutes. If you can make that promise to every customer, your closing rate would go way up, because that's what they're the most afraid of, is sitting at the dealership for hours on hours. If you can prove to them that you can simplify that, be surprised what happens. And I think it was Ryan Everson that said they're using that virtual retailing tool from Gubagoo or whatever, however you say that. I think that's that concierge aspect where there's somebody there making sure that they're doing things right. And I think that's a big part of the tool, and not being afraid to tell the customer, maybe what they're thinking is not correct, and maybe go over the options and features with them of the car, make sure they're buying the right car. I think that's a big help.
Yeah, he was speaking of that more as a lead gated payment calculator. And because of that, it's their biggest lead volume device. And he was also saying he philosophically can't stand that, but he can't fight the numbers.
Right. Well, yeah. But so the question is right, from a payment calculator tool, right? Is there somebody there to say, Mr. Customer, you're calculating a 72-month loan at 4% on a 10-year-old 180,000-mile car? That doesn't work. Right?
Yep.
Somebody just telling them those numbers aren't going to be right. I've had that customer come in, think, oh, well, the payment should be $250 a month, and then you look at the payment tool, and yeah, they've ran it for 72 months and some absurdly low rate that you can't actually get.
We like to call those guardrails. So when you let a customer loose, in a payment tool, you do have to give them some. You can't just let them have free reign all the way down to a rate that is impossible to deliver. Yeah,
like the little bumpers on the bowling alley lane for the kids, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So, have we established that there's a different idea of what digital retailing is per everybody? You think it's a safe statement?
Seems like it. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've seen some tools that are really just forms behind a call to action being touted as digital retailing. Mm-hmm. And then you got the OEMs that, I've been served these plenty of times. They all want a complete vehicle contracted solution. So they want to send the customer down this tunnel of buy the car online, and you're actually pulling credit, and you're actually like putting it into Route 1 or Dealer Track and getting the lending approval and being able to serve that back to the customer on the website. And so their definition is much deeper.
But
then the dealer's it's a lead tool for
the OEMs have to realize how what they do impacts our ability to do DR well. Again, when there's 16 different trim levels, and it's certain incentives this person qualifies for and this one doesn't. I built a GMC truck on the GMC website the other day, and there was 36 exterior options and 42 interior options, and nobody can buy a car that way. So if that's what they want, they're going to have to figure out a way to simplify it on their end too. Or, I don't know, just thinking this out loud, they're going to have to maybe try to control that experience. Maybe they have somebody, because again, we all know the third party people don't know exactly what they're doing. They don't know the incentives any better than the customer does, right? So, and then anybody in the store that does know that well, we get busy, and if you got a salesperson who's online talking with a guest, the next thing you know, their guy that's bought 4 cars for him every year for the last 5 years shows up. He's going to want to give that guy attention. So now he's busy. Now somebody's trying to figure out how they're going to hand this off. There's got to be some way for, to simplify, or not simplify. I don't think they're going to simplify, right? They're not going to get rid of all their trim levels and their accessories and all that. But maybe some way the OEM themselves can facilitate, communicating that information. I don't know, just throwing that one out there. It sounds like a terrible idea to let the OEM do anything, but yeah.
Shoot, I'd settle for, hey, let's get rid of the quarter horse and the fraternal order of Masons rebates and that don't stack. One works on a lease, the other one only works on a loan, and you have to have been born
the way
14th day of the sun showing whatever. Yeah.
The way I kind
Are there
of
any
view that.
dealers?
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead, John. You're fine.
The way I totally get what Bill's saying, but the way I kind of view it is there are different kinds of customers, and not everyone is shopping the same way. There's the guy that's looking for that Silverado with the 4B 26P color option package and needs that very specific minutia detail of options. And then you have the customer that's just looking for price, like they want a Civic and they want the cheapest one. They don't care. And then you have the person that may not know what they want at all, and you've got the person that obviously just wants to see if they can get approved. So the way I look at current digital retailing is it's a one size fits all, and it does not really encompass all of those buyers. And since dealerships have been around, I think dealers really have been trying to get customers to buy the car the way the dealer wants to sell it to them. Mm-hmm. And for this to be really, really successful, you would need a tool that meets every customer where they're at and answers those questions and walks them down a different path based on the kind of consumer they are or where they're at in the funnel, depending on what they're looking for. So while nothing like this I don't think exists today, but that to me would be the way this really, really works, is more of a dynamic, like what kind of consumer do we have, what are they looking for, and then put them down that path based on X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. So what does that look like? Is there an interview before the digital retail tool? Because you're absolutely right. Take my store, for example. I've got the GM brands, I've got Toyota brands. Those are 2 different shoppers. They are not the same, right? And so how do you identify what you have? I make the joke about the Toyota customer. He came in and asked me what the quarter mile time on a Camry was. Yeah. I don't think Toyota.
If you really got to ask.
Right. So again, how do you, what's the easiest way then? Because you're 100% right. The shopper's different, so we probably need to figure out how to tailor it to them. But how do you know what kind of shopper you have?
Yeah. So my first gut with something like this is we're talking about a digital experience currently on a website, and the first thing that pops to my mind is, and again, nothing like this exists. I don't know that we're far from it though, based on what I'm hearing just throughout the industry, is an AI solution that is going to ask the right questions and going to have the right answers to be able to qualify a customer, to put them in these gated categories based on where they're at in the funnel.
I would say the power of the AI is certainly there. It's not present yet for the car business. And I think what it's really lacking for us right now is the inability to pull in multiple data sources for the AI. So right now, it's really just making calls to ChatGPT with a couple of tweaks for, if this word is seen, then respond with this and modify the language a little bit with ChatGPT. But the what's missing is the inability for it to pull in payments or to pull in inventory and make suggestions on other cars like the one you're looking at, and be able to say, hey, look, I know that you're you're looking at a call it a say a Ford F-150 right now, and you're trying to get a payment around $600 a month. Well, what we have in stock is actually a Maverick, and have you considered that? Because it'll actually save you some money. And when the AI can do that kind of thing, now you're talking. Yeah.
Like I said, I don't think it's there yet, but just projecting out where this is going and what it can do, I think you're going to see services like this pop up, not just for automotive, but probably for a lot of other businesses selling a product.
Oh, it's out there. In fact, Caesar is an AI system that does pull multiple databases and whatnot. I'm looking forward to when they actually make their full splash in the United States. But the technology's out there. It just hasn't made it into our world on a daily basis yet.
And how do you teach AI to approach used cars and new cars differently? Because you gotta approach those two differently, right? So how do you teach it to approach both sides of that differently? Same thing with going back to the GM versus Toyota buyer. How does it know how's it going to know what type of customer it's dealing with? If it tries to skip too many steps, then it annoys the Toyota customer, and if it's too overbearing, then it annoys the GM customer.
Yeah, I think that's going to be an exceptionally talented prompt engineer's problem in the near future.
Well, no, it's our problem. It's people like the four of us. So
Yeah.
It's people who have sold cars and understand that there is an intricate difference between the General Motors customer and the Toyota buyer, and how to speak to a used car customer versus a new car customer, or a Mercedes customer versus a Kia customer.
Right.
It's not going to come from the engineer. They proved that time and time again.
Yeah, John, I think you and I were talking about this. We had a conversation the other day about some AI related stuff, and it's really making sure that you put a bunch of programmers in a room to build an AI product for the dealership. If there's not a couple dealership guys there going, whoa, wait a minute, that's not how it works, right? Then good luck with that too.
Yeah, the industry expert is paramount in that experiment for sure. You've got to have someone that knows the industry, which is obviously I think that's where a lot of vendors maybe fall a little short too. Is you've got a bunch of really smart engineers and developers in a room, but not a lick of in-store experience.
Yeah, and that's what we need somebody to do with digital retail. We need a vendor who really figures out how to put all of these pieces together, and it's gonna be a challenge. I'm worried that we're going to give up on it, and I don't think we should. I think we just have to figure it out. We have to figure it out because I think the customer wants to be able to do as much of the process online as they can trust, and then make a decision from there. And so, I said it earlier, they want to finish as much of it online as they can before coming in. I think they want to figure out as much as they can online that they trust. And if we've got to figure out a way to make them trust that the numbers in the end are the numbers, the car that they're on is the right car, all of those things.
Well, here's a little bit of an issue. Well, maybe not an issue. I agree with you, Bill, that we do need to figure out a way to make it work if we wish to continue to provide a better online experience for car shoppers. So you got a couple of things. One, you had a number of digital retailing tools that were sold in recent years for astronomical valuations that don't exist anymore. So you had some selling for 10 and even one that sold for 21 times its revenue, which is insane. And that market has crashed. So you're not seeing companies getting valuations like that anymore. But the more difficult side, and why I'm saying that first, is because it's about funding. So not everyone's a techion, so they can't go out and raise $100 million in their first round. So digital retailing, to get accurate, you've got to go to other sources of data. So one, you got to pull dealers' inventory. Right, that's not expensive and not hard to do. But the other one is you got to calculate those payments. There's really only two players right now that do it at scale and do it for leasing, right? And also tie in the incentives and allow you to stack them properly. That's oh God, where's my brain? So Market Scan's one, and then Aaron Bickard's thing. It's OfferLogix. And so both of those programs also require that you understand how to do the algebra yourself on actually doing a lease and knowing where to stop the infinite payments, because that's what leases do. They can spiral out of control mathematically if you don't do them right. And then all the other intricacies, like, all right, Tennessee's got a different way of taxing the trade. New Jersey's got different ways of applying taxes. And New York is California. They're all over the damn place. Chicago's batshit crazy with taxes. So trying to get all those to come together also requires certain intellect within the company that's offering the solution to be able to tie it all so you actually have accurate payments. And then also you have to understand how to work with the APIs that these various providers give you. So an example here to try and make this real world, not go too long here, but MarketScan has different measures that you feed it. So they have one where you say, okay, I want the maximum profit on this car. Call it for that. Give me the payments back based on profit approach. Another way is to say, here's the price of the car. The price of the car ain't changing, and just give me the best payments back on that one. So, and there's like 3 or 4 others too. So the logic that's being applied over there, you got to understand it very clearly. You got to understand what your dealer wants, and then, piece all that together. And this stuff is not cheap. I think that most startups, you're probably building a technology solution like that for a bare minimum $1 million. Bare minimum. So if you got a subject matter expert who can come up with $1 million, you might be able to get something to market.
And you got another headwind there. Those guys need to spend a bunch of money to make it happen. Meanwhile, dealers are figuring out where to cut expenses right now.
Yeah, and no, dealers aren't looking for digital retailing tools right now.
Right.
The OEMs are forcing ones down their throat already, as you well know, Bill.
Well, I was gonna say that's what happened with COVID. I often wonder. It's like, I wonder if the OEMs will ever maybe possibly regret enforcing upon all their dealerships to have some type of digital retailing tool.
Well, I think the OEMs are the ones that have really killed it for the future. They've made the barrier to entry so high. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. And by insisting all dealerships have it?
No, by insisting that they all have 500 billion features in them.
Yes, that too.
And every single one of those features is an integration with the company that wants money.
Yep.
Well, also not considering the downwind effects of forcing a tool on someone who may or may not use it properly.
Yeah, won't use it properly is the right. They won't. They're not going to use it.
I was trying to be nice.
Yeah.
The one question that I have, the
So
big one that we haven't touched on yet, is how do we think whatever version of the CARS Act that may or may not get passed goes into something like this? Because it definitely could impact prices and payments being shown with figures that may be required to be exact.
Well, it's
Very
gonna
true.
complicate it more because now you're gonna be now you're gonna have to show, what's the beyond the here's your payment, here's your term, here's your rate, how much interest is paid over the course of the loan, how much they're gonna have paid by the time the loan is completely paid off. Again, the customer, they don't quite understand all of that sometimes, so you're just adding another complication into it as well. As usual with any new rules that come out, they never think about the unintended consequences of things. You know, the kind of give you a random one. Not in the car business. So a lot of places are making marijuana legal now, right? So they've got all these drug dogs that they've now had to retire because they are detecting marijuana and pulling people over for something that's not illegal now. So they've had to retire all those dogs. You don't think about those unintended consequences. And to give you one related to the CARS Act with the dock fee, okay, we only charge a $145 dock fee. We in Missouri now, used to be $199 in Missouri. Now it's over $500. We still only charge $145. Well, if I want to price a car at $30,000 so that it sits in the right bucket, so if a customer searches between $20,000 and $30,000, I want that customer to see mine. I have a choice. Am I going to price my car at $30,145, or am I going to try to eat that dock fee? Well, what's the easier route? The easier route is for me to just raise my dock fee to $500.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So instead of charging the customer $145, now I'm charging them $500. Did that benefit the customer?
Nope. All of our dock fees went up here in Maryland. I think we can charge up to $699 or it's either $699 or $799. I think it's $799.
Yeah. If I'm going to price the car at $30,145, I might as well price it at $30,500.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. It's that, and also that total amount financed. It's going to be a real bear to get in front of every customer every time.
Well, and
there's going to be a lot of sticker shock.
We show it to them every time. And while we're going through the TILA box with them, they're just looking where they're supposed to sign at it. They're not even looking at it.
Right.
You're trying to show them those numbers, and they're just trying to see where to sign. I'm going to go home.
True.
Yep. Yep. Well,
so where do you see it in, let's say, the next 4 or 5 years? Do you see digital retailing sort of reinventing itself, maybe with the help of AI? Or do you
I think it could pull I think it could pull a QR code stunt, disappear for a while, and then come raging back.
Yeah, there's some wisdom in that statement.
There is. There really is.
I mean,
things are definitely cyclical, yeah. So it's totally possible.
Well, it's not just that. Like, I'm more thinking like digital retailing was forced to evolve quickly. It went from dealer science, just putting payments on a dealer's website, to full on transactions in less than a year. With, 3 companies to 70 companies. It was just insane.
Not to mention during the craziest time we've experienced in the automotive industry.
Right. And then crashed. The digital retailing market crashed. So when dealers are selling cars for insane profits and don't have a lot of inventory, it's like customer walks in and says, well, that's the car, take it or leave it. I got 5 other people standing right behind you ready to go. You don't need advertising, you don't need all those things. So that world crashed, and now it's starting to come back really slow, but as dealers are needing leads again. But so it could, I built, really could. We could look at this 4 years from now and be like, oh, hey, it's back. And I didn't even see it coming. It just kind of crept up on us a little bit.
Yeah, I see an evolution similar to what we're discussing. I think it's going to change. Whether it be more adaptable for the consumer or for the dealer or both, I don't know. But I do see it evolving to some degree.
Or we enter another pandemic and it forces us all once again.
We just need to get we need to get Facebook and X. We need to get their fact checkers on their community notes. When the customer's going through this, you're doing it wrong.
That was last month's rate, Mr. Customer.
Yeah. Fraud alert.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, this has been a fun talk, and I do think I like leaving it off on like we could see digital retailing in more ways again, like a QR code.
I think once AI. Yeah. Great.
Well, thank you both for being on with us today. I hope you guys are open to coming back again.
Yeah, enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Well, thanks, everybody.
Gentlemen, have a good weekend.
We'll see y'all later. Yeah.
We'll see you guys.
Take care, guys.